Imagine stepping into a dream. But instead of gold and sunshine, you find a world drenched in grey rain and the awful, metallic smell of fresh blood, a smell that hangs in the cold air of Paris in 1793 like a bad sickness, a smell that young Anatole, a boy of just 14, knew better than the sweet scent of his mother's baking, a smell that told him of deep fear, of people losing all hope, and of the monstrous wooden machine called the guillotine, which stood tall in the main square, the Place de la Revolution, its huge, sharp blade looking dull and dark even under the constantly falling, sad grey rain, always ready to fall, always ready to cut off another person's head, always ready to end another life in a flash of terror, making the very ground under Anatole's worn-out boots feel like it was shaking with the quiet screams of all the people who had died there, a constant, sickening feeling that never left him. A terrible reminder that in these scary days of what they called the terror, a person's life was worth even less than a piece of old, hard bread, and death was not a private, sad thing, but a huge, public show, a brutal, awful entertainment for the wild, screaming crowds who loved to watch, their faces twisted with a mix of excitement and hate, shouting for more blood, a world where every single day was a fight just to stay alive, a desperate, terrifying game with the highest possible stakes, where losing meant not just death, but a forgotten, brutal end. And Anatole, a very thin, very fast boy, almost just skin and bones from never having enough to eat, was squashed down deep in a small, dirty, dark alleyway, his thin, old coat doing almost nothing to protect him from the biting cold that seemed to come from everywhere, or from the endless dampness that seemed to soak right into his bones, making them ache, and his stomach was a hollow, empty cave, a constant, burning pain that felt more like a real companion than any friend he had ever had, a never-ending hunger that had been his grim shadow, always following him, ever since his kind parents had simply vanished months ago, swallowed whole by the huge, hungry mouth of the revolution, like a terrible monster eating everyone, leaving him completely alone, a tiny, forgotten piece of rubbish in the completely wild, blood-soaked streets of a city that was slowly eating itself alive. A city that was definitely not the shining, beautiful capital of the world that people used to talk about, but a place of constant, never-ending fear, of sudden, terrible violence that could happen at any moment, of quiet, dangerous whispers and sharp, cold suspicion, where even one wrong word, one small, mistaken look, could quickly lead to a fast, brutal end, a world where simply surviving was a daily lottery, a desperate, terrifying game with his life as the prize, and he watched, his eyes wide open and full of fear, as a group of soldiers from the National Guard, their blue coats old, faded, and covered in dirt, their sharp, pointed bayonets stuck onto their guns and shining dangerously in the dim light, marched past the end of his alley, their heavy boots making a grim, rhythmic thud-thud-thud sound on the wet cobblestones, their faces hard and completely without feeling, their eyes constantly looking into every dark corner, searching the shadows for any sign of someone who didn't agree, any small flicker of someone trying to fight back, any hint of what they called the enemies of the Republic, a terrifying phrase that now seemed to mean absolutely everyone, from the richest, most important noble to the poorest little boy on the street, just like Anatole, a truly scary label that could be put on anyone, at any time, for any reason at all, or even for no reason, simply because someone didn't like them, and the presence of these soldiers filled the air with an even deeper, heavier feeling of dread. A suffocating fear that pressed down hard on Anatole, making his heart beat like a tiny, trapped bird trying to escape from his ribs, making him feel completely invisible, utterly unimportant, yet at the same time terribly exposed, terribly open to danger, a tiny ghost just trying to stay alive in a city that was haunted by the real ghosts of all the people it had killed, a city that pulsed with a dangerous, unpredictable energy, like a huge, angry pot of boiling liquid. A wild mix of passionate love for France, desperate, painful hunger that made people do anything, and a simmering, quiet anger that could explode into sudden, brutal violence at any moment, turning neighbor against neighbor, turning even the best of friends against each other in a flash of blind rage, and Anatole knew, with a chilling, sickening certainty that went deep into his bones, that this was not the glorious, wonderful revolution of freedom, of fairness for everyone, and of friendship that the loud, angry speakers in the public squares shouted about with so much passion, but a brutal, never-ending fight, a slow, terrible slide into madness, where the only real, constant things were the nagging, painful fear that never left, the spreading, suffocating suspicion that made everyone doubt everyone else, and the never-ending shadow of the guillotine, its hungry, shining blade a constant, terrifying picture, always there to remind everyone of the revolution's never-ending hunger. A terrifying truth that very few people dared to speak about loudly, because even a tiny whisper of doubt, even a small questioning look, could quickly lead to the dreaded, sudden knock on their door in the middle of the night, the fast, rough arrest, and the unavoidable, public death that everyone feared, a terrible fate that had already taken his own kind mother and his strong father, innocent victims of a system that had gone horribly, completely, monstrously wrong, eating its own children, its own citizens. In its desperate, bloody search for an impossible, perfect world, a utopia built on mountains of bodies and rivers of blood. His parents, who were gentle bakers and had once filled the air of their small, cozy shop with the sweet, comforting smell of fresh bread and warm, soft pastries, had simply disappeared one sad, gray morning, like they had never existed, their shop completely broken into and turned upside down, everything scattered, their names quickly added to the growing, frightening list of all the people who were accused of being royalist sympathizers. A vague, confusing charge that could mean almost anything and needed no real proof, no witnesses, only the accusation itself, a terrifying weapon used by the very angry, very determined members of the Committee of Public Safety, the powerful, shadowy group that now ruled all of France with the hand made of iron, their strict rules and harsh decisions carried out by the revolutionary tribunals, special courts where fairness was just a meaningless word, a cruel joke. And being found guilty was always decided beforehand, their word was absolute law, their power could not be denied, leaving Anatole completely alone, a child ghost silently haunting the only warm, loving home he had ever known, now cold and empty, its sweet, comforting smells replaced by the lingering, heavy scent of despair and being abandoned, a profound emptiness that hurt more than any physical wound. He had tried his best to hide, to simply survive each day, searching for tiny pieces of food in the huge, busy markets, sleeping in dark, deserted doorways where no one would see him, his days a boring, never-ending blur of hunger and constant fear, his nights a broken, restless sleep, full of terrifying nightmares of his parents, their kind faces pale and full of terror, their names shouted by angry, roaring mobs, their silent, desperate pleas for help lost completely in the deafening roar of the revolution, a constant, chilling reminder of how easily life could be taken, how quickly death could come, and how utterly cruel and uncaring the new government was, a government that was eating its own children, its own citizens, in its never-ending, bloody search for an impossible, perfect world, a utopia built on mountains of bodies and rivers of blood. Yet, even in the middle of this deep, profound sadness, a tiny, strong spark of defiance, like a small, brave flame, flickered inside Anatole's young heart, a burning desire to understand, to know the real truth of why his parents had disappeared, to find out if they were truly gone forever, or if some impossible, tiny hope still remained, a desperate, dangerous quest that gnawed at his very soul, pushing him past the limits of his immense fear, making him observe, making him listen, making him notice the small, strange details that other people, made dull by constant fear and painful hunger, seemed to miss, or maybe chose to ignore just to save themselves from even more pain, because simply surviving each day was a full-time job in revolutionary Paris, taking all of a person's energy and focus. He had started to notice the butcher, Monsieur Dubois, a man whose big hands were usually covered in blood from his work and whose face was usually red from drinking too much cheap wine, now moved with a strange, unnatural quietness, his eyes constantly darting around, always looking, his whispers even lower and harder to hear than usual when he spoke to the National Guardsmen who walked around the market every day. Their short talks quick, secretive, full of an unspoken understanding that clearly hinted at a deeper, darker connection between them, a hidden web of informers and spies that had spread throughout the entire city like a slow, creeping sickness, trapping everyone, turning even the smallest bit of trust into a deadly, dangerous gamble, where speaking too freely could cost you your life. And he had noticed the street sweeper, a very old, bent-over woman named Madame Valois, whose worn-out broom meticulously cleaned the dirty gutters of Paris, pushing all the rubbish away, but whose sharp, bird-like eyes missed absolutely nothing, her gaze often staying for a long time on certain houses, certain people, her thin lips sometimes quietly muttering strange, secret warnings under her breath, warnings that spoke of betrayal, of hidden dangers, of terrible secrets buried deep under the old cobblestones of the city, secrets that the revolution claimed it was digging up and bringing to light, but which it was actually just burying again under a fresh, terrible layer of blood and never-ending fear. And most unsettling of all, the thing that made Anatole feel the most scared and confused, was that he had started to see a very particular symbol, subtly carved into the handle of a guardsman's sword, woven into the fancy pattern of a rich noblewoman's shawl, a noblewoman who, strangely, was still walking freely through the dangerous streets of Paris without any trouble, a chilling, confusing thing in a city where simply being from a rich family was enough to get you killed, carved into the worn wooden handle of a merchant's cart, a small, intricate carving of a single, watchful eye, its pupil looking long and thin, almost like a snake's eye, surrounded by a subtle, almost invisible swirl of tiny, interlocking gears, like parts of a complex clock, a symbol that felt ancient, powerful, and deeply unsettling, a mark that seemed to pulse with a hidden energy. A dark secret lurking just beneath the messy surface of the revolution's chaos, a silent, powerful force that seemed to be secretly controlling everything, pulling all the strings from the deep shadows. This symbol, which he at first thought was just a pretty decoration, something to look at, started to appear everywhere with a terrifying frequency, its ominous, scary presence a constant, chilling reminder that something much, much worse than just simple political fighting was truly happening, something that went beyond the everyday chaos of the terror, something ancient and deeply evil that was slowly, silently, weaving a huge web of control over the entire city, over the very path and direction of the revolution itself, twisting its original good ideas into a monstrous, terrible copy of freedom, a cruel joke on everyone. His parents, he realized with a sickening certainty that made his stomach hurt, had not just been random, unlucky victims of the revolutionary anger. They had somehow stumbled upon this hidden truth, this insidious, evil network, and had been quickly silenced, swallowed whole by a conspiracy far deeper, far more terrifying than the public announcements and speeches from the Committee of Public Safety. A secret war being fought in the deep shadows, a battle for the very soul of France, for what France would truly become, and Anatole, with his quick, sharp mind and his strong, unyielding courage, felt a burning desire to uncover this terrifying truth, to expose the unseen forces that were secretly controlling the revolution, that were eating up innocent lives like his parents, that were twisting the very idea of fairness and justice, even if it meant risking his own fragile, tiny life, which was already hanging by a thread. His days now were like a carefully planned dance, a constant movement of surviving and secretly investigating, searching for tiny pieces of food in the busy, loud markets, his eyes always scanning, always looking, his ears straining to catch any small whispers, any secret clues, any quick glimpse of the coiled eye symbol that marked his unseen enemies, his small, thin body moving like a silent ghost through the crowded, dirty streets. An invisible observer in a city that was completely blinded by its own fear, a forgotten child carrying the huge weight of a monumental, terrifying secret. He learned the everyday rhythms of the city, the changing times of the National Guard patrols, the secret meeting places of the different revolutionary groups, the quiet, hushed conversations in the smoky, dark taverns, the desperate, silent pleas in the dark confessional booths of the deserted, old churches, slowly building a complex picture in his mind, a mental map of the city's hidden currents, its secret pathways, its underground networks of both people trying to fight back and people betraying each other, a living, breathing tapestry made of fear and defiance, woven into the very stone of Paris. The gnawing, empty hunger in his stomach was a constant, dull ache, a pain that never truly went away, but the burning desire for truth, for real justice for his parents, fueled his weary body, pushing him onward, past the limits of his physical strength, his young spirit made strong and tough by the cruel realities of his new world, a world where being innocent was a luxury he could no longer afford, a weakness he had to shed to survive. One particularly cold and very damp evening, as the dark night slowly settled over the city, painting the sad gray skies with dark colors of bruised purple and angry red, Anatole found himself hiding deep in the shadows of an old, abandoned theater. A huge building whose grand, crumbling front parts spoke of forgotten glories, of loud laughter and joyful applause that had once filled its rooms, now replaced by the chilling, heavy silence of being completely left alone, its dusty velvet seats and broken, empty stage a sad, poignant reminder of a world that had vanished completely overnight, swallowed whole by the revolution's never-ending hunger for change, for destruction, and he was searching for tiny scraps of food, for anything at all to stop the relentless, painful ache in his stomach, when he suddenly noticed a faint, flickering light coming from a small trapdoor hidden underneath the broken stage. A light that seemed to pulse with an eerie, internal energy, a subtle, rhythmic glow that was completely unlike any normal oil lamp or burning torch, a light that immediately made the small, reptilian eye symbol flash in his mind, a chilling, terrifying connection that sent a sudden shiver of deep dread down his spine, making his hairs stand on end, for he knew, with a sickening certainty that made his stomach drop, that this was not merely a forgotten, empty theater, but a hidden meeting place, a secret lair. A dark den of the unseen forces that were secretly controlling and manipulating the revolution, turning its good intentions into evil. His heart pounded a frantic, wild rhythm against his ribs, like a drum beating a desperate warning, a mix of both intense fear and a burning, unstoppable curiosity, a desperate need to know, to understand the terrifying secrets that lay hidden beneath the dusty stage, and he cautiously approached the trapdoor, his bare feet making absolutely no sound on the splintered, old wood, his small, thin body moving with an almost unnatural stealth, like a shadow dancing in the dark, his senses heightened, every nerve awake, his ears straining to catch any sound, any quiet whisper that might reveal the nature of the hidden meeting, any clue to the evil that lurked below, and as he reached the trapdoor, he noticed that it was slightly open, just a tiny bit, a thin sliver of deep darkness beckoning him inward, inviting him into the unknown, and a peculiar, sickly sweet smell. A scent he now instantly recognized as the disturbing perfume of decay and unnatural chemicals, a smell that made his stomach churn with a sick feeling and his head ache with a dull, throbbing pain, wafted strongly upwards from the opening, a chilling confirmation that the secrets beneath were indeed tied to something vile, something twisted, something far beyond mere political arguments, a smell that echoed the forgotten horrors of the storehouse from his ancient Egyptian nightmare-like stories, linking this new, terrifying reality in Paris directly to the depths of ancient, cosmic evils, showing him that this evil was universal, not limited to one time or place. He carefully knelt down, his eye pressed tightly against the narrow crack in the trapdoor, and what he saw inside made his blood run completely cold, making his breath catch painfully in his throat, a silent, terrible scream trapped deep in his chest, for beneath the stage, in a dimly lit, circular chamber, a group of cloaked figures, their faces completely hidden by deep, dark hoods, stood in a solemn, silent circle around a pulsating, dark crystal, a massive, obsidian shard that radiated a malevolent, evil green light, a light that pulsed with a rhythmic, hypnotic energy, casting grotesque, ugly shadows that danced like terrible demons on the ancient, intricately carved walls, making them seem alive with evil, and at the very center of the circle, standing proudly before the glowing crystal, was a tall, imposing figure, his face illuminated eerily by the green light, clearly revealing the stern, unfeeling features of Maximilien Robespierre. The very man who had planned and built the terrible reign of terror, the ruthless, cruel leader of the Committee of Public Safety, his eyes, usually cold and calculating like a machine, now burning with an almost unholy, frightening passion, a terrifying zeal that completely changed him from just a political leader into a high priest of a dark, ancient cult, a truly shocking transformation, and around his neck, gleaming faintly in the green light, was an amulet, a delicate silver chain from which hung a single, watchful eye, its pupil elongated, thin, and reptilian, exactly like a snake's eye, surrounded by a subtle, almost invisible swirl of tiny, interlocking gears, like tiny clock parts, the very same symbol Anatole had seen carved on soldiers' swords and rich women's shawls, a chilling, terrifying confirmation that Robespierre, the most powerful man in all of France, was not merely a revolutionary leader, but the hidden master of this sinister, evil network, the high priest of this ancient cult. a terrifying revelation that completely shattered Anatole's entire understanding of the revolution, exposing a deeper, much more insidious, evil conspiracy, a primordial, ancient evil that was secretly controlling all the chaos for its own dark, ancient purposes, twisting everything good into something terrible. The cloaked figures, who were all members of this secret, evil society, began to chant in a low, guttural, strange language, a rhythmic, hypnotic hum that seemed to vibrate through the very floor beneath Anatole, making him feel it in his bones, a sound that resonated deeply with the humming from his earlier ancient Egyptian nightmare-like stories, linking this new horror to a universal fear, a sound of ancient power, of deep, malevolent intent, a chant that filled the chamber within. Oppressive, suffocating darkness, a palpable, strong evil that threatened to consume all light, all hope, all sanity, every good thought. And as they chanted, the dark crystal in the center of the circle pulsed with an even greater intensity, its green light flaring brightly, casting terrifying shadows that writhed and twisted like tormented souls trapped in agony, and a series of ancient, cryptic symbols, glowing with the same eerie green light, began to appear on the carved walls, symbols that depicted distorted human figures, strange, terrible machines, and a colossal, huge, coiled serpent, its fangs dripping with luminous, green venom, its eyes burning with primordial, ancient malevolence, a terrifying iconography that echoed the exact images from his ancient Egyptian nightmares, linking this new, terrifying reality directly to a universal, ancient evil. A cosmic horror that transcended all time and place, showing that evil was everywhere. Anatole, his mind completely spinning from the unbelievable horror, the profound, shocking revelation that Robespierre was not just a ruthless, cruel revolutionary, but the high priest of a secret cult, a cult that worshipped a primordial, ancient serpent of chaos, a cult that was secretly controlling and manipulating the revolution for its own sinister ends, felt a powerful surge of fear. A terror that threatened to completely overwhelm him, to make him faint, but also, surprisingly, a fierce, unyielding resolve, a burning desire to expose this ultimate evil, to fight back with all his might against the dark forces that had claimed his innocent parents, that now threatened to consume all of France, to turn the revolution's original good ideas into a monstrous, terrible copy of freedom, a chilling mockery of everything good and true that people believed in. He knew, with a sickening certainty that went deep into his gut, that he had stumbled upon a truth so vast, so incredibly dangerous, that it could either save France from utter destruction or completely destroy him. A truth that transformed his personal, quiet quest for justice for his parents into a huge battle for the very soul of a nation, for the very fabric of humanity itself, for what it meant to be human. A battle against an ancient, primordial evil that had resurfaced in the chaos of the revolution, using the very symbols of liberty, of freedom, as its cruel tools of subjugation, turning the very concept of freedom into a horrifying instrument of control, of enslavement. He quickly, silently, retreated from the trapdoor, his bare feet making absolutely no sound on the splintered, old wood, his small body trembling uncontrollably, his heart pounding a frantic, wild rhythm against his ribs, a desperate drumbeat of fear and a slowly growing defiance, and he made his way stealthily out of the abandoned theater, back into the cold, damp embrace of the Parisian night. His mind racing with 1,000 terrifying thoughts, his earlier vision of Paris as a glittering, beautiful capital now completely replaced by a chilling image of a city completely trapped in a huge web of ancient evil, its beautiful outside hiding a monstrous, dark heart that beat with the terrifying rhythm of chaos, a rhythm that was slowly, unavoidably, dragging all of France into a deep abyss of eternal darkness, a place from which there would be no return. The bitter, cold wind whipped harshly around him, carrying the familiar, coppery scent of blood and the never-ending dampness that seemed to stick to everything. But now, mixed with that, was the faint, unsettling perfume of decay and unnatural chemicals, the sickly sweet smell that emanated strongly from the cult's hidden lair, a constant, chilling reminder of the horrors he had just witnessed. A scent that seemed to follow him everywhere, clinging to his old clothes, filling his nostrils, a terrifying souvenir of his brush with ultimate evil, a mark that would never leave him. He desperately needed a plan. He desperately needed allies, people who would believe him. He needed to expose this terrifying truth to the world, to the confused, terrified citizens of Paris, to the very people who were blindly following Robespierre's harsh rules, unknowingly becoming tiny pieces in a far grander, far more sinister game, a game that played with their lives and their souls. But who, oh who, would believe him, a mere street urchin, a forgotten, starving child, against the most powerful man in all of France? The architect of the terrible reign of terror, the high priest of a primordial cult that controlled everything? The challenge seemed impossible to overcome, the odds impossibly stacked against him, like trying to move a mountain with his bare hands. But the strong memory of his kind parents, their gentle faces, their innocent lives cruelly extinguished by this unseen enemy, fueled his resolve, hardening his young heart with a fierce determination, a burning desire for justice that went beyond his own immense fear. That pushed him to fight against an evil that threatened to consume everything he held dear. Every good thing in the world. He sought refuge in a deserted, crumbling crypt hidden deep beneath an old, abandoned church, a place where the air was thick with the dust of centuries and the silent echoes of forgotten prayers, a sanctuary of deep shadows and ancient stone, its oppressive, heavy quiet a welcome change from the loud chaos and fear that pulsed constantly in the city above, a place where he could think clearly, where he could plan, where he could gather his shattered thoughts and try to build a weapon out of the terrifying truth he now possessed, a truth that could either save or destroy. As he huddled among the dusty sarcophagi, their ancient carvings barely visible in the faint moonlight filtering through a tiny crack in the ceiling, a ghostly illumination, Anatole unfurled a small, crumpled piece of parchment he had secretly taken from his father's old baking shop, a faded drawing his father had made many years ago, a whimsical sketch of an ancient clockwork mechanism, its intricate tiny gears and springs drawn with a meticulous, careful precision that spoke of a hidden passion, a secret hobby, a mechanical genius that went far beyond simply baking bread, showing a hidden brilliance. And as his fingers traced the familiar lines of the drawing, his mind, still buzzing with the terrifying images of the glowing crystal, the chanting figures, and Robespierre's cold, reptilian eye, a sudden, chilling realization struck him. A powerful flash of insight that connected the drawing directly to the cult's symbol, to the cult itself, to the ultimate, ancient evil. The tiny, interlocking gears surrounding the reptilian eye and the cult's symbol, the very symbol that adorned Robespierre's amulet and was etched on the swords of the guardsmen, were not merely decorative, not just pretty designs. They were a subtle, cryptic clue, a hidden language, a secret sign that the cult's power, its ancient magic, was deeply interwoven with a sophisticated, advanced mechanical ingenuity. A terrifying fusion of primordial evil and advanced technology, a secret that completely transcended the simple understanding of magic and superstition, a revelation that transformed his perception of their enemy from just mere sorcerers to something far more dangerous, far more insidious, masters of both ancient, dark rituals and complex, arcane mechanisms, combining the oldest and newest evils. His father, he realized with a painful surge of understanding that brought tears to his eyes, had been a brilliant inventor, a secret genius who had been unknowingly drawn into this terrifying web, perhaps even glimpsing the cult's true nature, their technological secrets, before he was brutally silenced, his knowledge deemed too dangerous, too revealing. A chilling confirmation that his parents' fate was directly linked to this ancient, mechanical evil, that they had died because of what his father knew. The fragmented, broken memories of his father's hushed conversations, his clandestine, secret work in the back of their bakery, the strange whirring sounds that sometimes emanated from his hidden workshop, all now clicked perfectly into place, forming a terrifying mosaic of revelation, a confirmation that his father, a simple, kind baker, had been a key player in a hidden, desperate war against an ancient, technologically advanced cult, a war that had now, terrifyingly, fallen to him, a mere child, to continue, to finish, to win. The parchment, once just a sentimental keepsake, a fond memory, now completely transformed into a vital clue, a hidden map to his father's secret knowledge, his concealed inventions, his forgotten defenses, a powerful weapon against the very forces that had consumed him, a legacy of defiance that had been unknowingly passed down to Anatole, a legacy he now had to fully embrace, to take on with all his strength. He knew, with a fierce certainty that burned in his young soul, that his father's secret workshop, hidden somewhere beneath the old bakery, must contain further clues, more blueprints, perhaps even fully working prototypes of amazing devices designed to counter the cult's mechanical magic, powerful weapons that could fight back against Robespierre's terrifying power, tools that could expose the ultimate truth and bring it to light. And he felt a surge of desperate hope, a fragile, trembling beacon in the overwhelming darkness, knowing that he was not entirely alone, that his father, even in death, had left him a path, a chance to fight back, a glimmer of light in the deepest shadows. He desperately needed to get back to the bakery, to the only home he had ever truly known, to unlock its hidden secrets, to reclaim his father's legacy, to find the powerful weapons he needed to fight this ancient, technologically advanced evil, this monster that played with time and lives. The journey back to the bakery was fraught with extreme peril, the dark, deserted streets of Paris now seeming to pulse with the unseen presence of the cult's agents, their watchful, reptilian eyes lurking in every dark shadow, their silent, creeping footsteps echoing ominously in the oppressive silence, a chilling reminder of the pervasive, constant danger that surrounded him, like a suffocating shroud. But Anatole, fueled by a powerful, renewed sense of purpose, by the burning desire to avenge his innocent parents, moved with a newfound stealth, his small body a mere shadow among the towering, ancient buildings, his senses heightened, every nerve awake, his mind sharp, his heart beating a steady, determined rhythm of desperate resolve, a silent promise to himself to not give up. He reached the bakery, its once welcoming facade now dark and desolate, its windows boarded up with rough wood, its heavy doors sealed shut with a thick, rusted lock, a grim monument to a life that had been violently extinguished, a silent testament to the revolution's brutal, unfeeling efficiency. But for Anatole, it was more than just a ruined shop. It was a sanctuary of memory, a repository of his father's genius, a hidden arsenal against the forces of chaos, a place of hope. He carefully picked the rusted lock, his nimble fingers, once accustomed to gently handling delicate pastries, now surprisingly adept at the intricate workings of tumblers and springs, a skill he had unknowingly inherited from his mechanically brilliant father, a hidden talent that now came to his aid. And as the lock clicked open with a soft, echoing thud, the sound reverberating in the oppressive silence, he slipped inside. Into the cold, empty darkness of the bakery, the air thick with the lingering smell of stale flour and the faint, ghostly aroma of fresh bread, a nostalgic scent that brought a sharp pang of grief for what he had lost and a renewed, burning sense of determination for what he had to do. He navigated the familiar space, his hands brushing against dusty shelves, cold, empty bread ovens, and abandoned baking tools, each touch a poignant, sad reminder of his lost childhood, his stolen innocence, his parents' gentle, loving presence, a world that was gone forever. And he found the secret entrance to his father's workshop, cleverly hidden beneath a loose flagstone in the floor of the storeroom. A spot he had once stumbled upon as a curious child, only to be gently, but firmly redirected by his father, his young mind completely unaware of the profound, dangerous secrets that lay hidden beneath, secrets that would now become his. With a grunt of effort, he lifted the heavy flagstone, revealing a narrow, dark stairwell leading downwards, a descent into the hidden genius of his father, a passage into the heart of a technological mystery, a journey into the unknown depths of his family's past. And as he descended into the subterranean darkness, the air grew thick with the strong smell of old oil, metal, and something vaguely electrical. A scent that spoke of intricate machinery, of hidden contraptions, of a world far removed from the flour-dusted, simple reality of the bakery above, a smell that filled him with a powerful mix of awe and a profound sense of connection to his lost father, a feeling of finally understanding him, of being close to him again. He reached the bottom of the stairs, stepping into a surprisingly spacious chamber, a hidden workshop filled with a dazzling array of strange, intricate machines, their surfaces gleaming dully in the faint light filtering from above, casting eerie shadows, and the walls were adorned with countless blueprints, detailed schematics, and cryptic notes, all covered in his father's familiar, meticulous handwriting. A testament to his secret life as an inventor, a silent genius who had toiled tirelessly in the shadows, creating wonders in a world that would never understand his brilliance, a world consumed by chaos and fear, a brilliant mind hidden in plain sight. In the center of the workshop, on a large wooden workbench, lay a partially assembled device, its intricate gears and springs gleaming, its polished brass casing glinting, a magnificent clockwork mechanism, far more complex and elegant than anything Anatole had ever seen, a true marvel of engineering, and beside it, a series of glowing crystals, pulsating with a soft, ethereal light, not the malevolent, evil green of a pep, but a gentle, comforting golden hue, a light that seemed to hum with a benevolent energy, a powerful contrast to the dark forces he had encountered, a clear sign that his father's creations were designed not for destruction, but for protection, for balance, for a higher, purer purpose, a force for good. As Anatole examined the device, his fingers tracing its intricate components, his mind, sharpened by his father's earlier drawing, slowly began to comprehend its complex function, a complex mechanism designed to detect and disrupt specific, malevolent energy signatures, a tool to identify and neutralize the cult's dangerous mechanical magic. A powerful weapon to fight back against Robespierre's technologically advanced evil, a magnificent testament to his father's foresight, his incredible genius, his unwavering defiance against the growing darkness. And among the blueprints, Anatole found a detailed diagram, a map not of the known streets of Paris, but of a hidden, vast network of subterranean tunnels and secret chambers beneath the city, a labyrinthine underworld woven beneath the gleaming palaces and bustling streets, a secret passage system that strangely mirrored the map from the Keepers of the Scales, which he had seen in his ancient Egyptian nightmare-like stories, but with an added layer of intricate, technical detail, marking specific nodes of malevolent energy, hidden conduits, and concealed weaknesses within the cult's subterranean network, a chilling confirmation that his father had not only known about the cult, but had actively been researching their operations, their technological secrets, their hidden vulnerabilities, their every weakness. This map, far more detailed and technically advanced than the Scroll of Thoth from his ancient nightmares, confirmed his earlier suspicions that the cult of Apep's power was deeply interwoven with sophisticated, mechanical ingenuity, a terrifying fusion of primordial evil and advanced technology, a secret that completely transcended the simple understanding of magic and superstition. A revelation that transformed his perception of their enemy from just mere sorcerers to something far more dangerous, far more insidious, masters of both ancient, dark rituals and complex, terrifying arcane mechanisms, combining the oldest and newest evils. And this map also marked a specific location, deep beneath the very heart of Paris, a hidden chamber designated as the Chronos Nexus, a place where the cult's mechanical magic was most concentrated, a central hub of their terrifying technological power, a terrifying nexus of gears, crystals, and dark energy, a pulsing heart of their evil, and beside the map, a series of notes in his father's hurried, almost desperate handwriting, spoke of a temporal distortion, a manipulation of causality, and a perversion of the natural order. A horrifying theory that suggested the cult's ultimate goal was not just political control over France, but the complete manipulation of time itself, to rewrite history, to alter the very fabric of reality, to ensure Apep's eternal, unending reign, a cosmic horror far beyond anything Anatole had ever imagined, a terrifying ambition that made his blood run cold, making him shiver uncontrollably. For if they could truly control time, they could control everything. They could make his parents' disappearance permanent, irreversible, their very existence completely erased from the annals of time, as if they had never lived. A terror. Anatole's hands, though still trembling slightly from the sheer shock of his discovery, instinctively tightened around the blueprints, the precious drawings that held the key to his father's genius, a genius now tragically cut short by the very evil he had sought to understand and fight, and a profound wave of grief washed over him, momentarily blurring the intricate lines of the clockwork mechanism, the sudden, overwhelming realization that his brave, kind father, a man who had secretly toiled in the shadows, crafting wonders in a world that saw him only as a simple baker, was gone forever, swallowed by the darkness of the revolution, leaving behind only these scattered fragments of his brilliant, defiant mind, a legacy of defiance that now, terrifyingly, rested squarely on Anatole's young, inexperienced shoulders, a burden that felt heavier than any mud brick he had ever carried. A responsibility that seemed to stretch into an endless, suffocating future, yet mingled with this crushing sorrow was a fierce, burning anger, a righteous fury against Robespierre, against the cult of Apep, against the insidious forces that had not only murdered his parents, but now threatened to erase their very existence from the fabric of time itself, an abomination far worse than death, a cosmic erasure that Anatole, with every fiber of his being, vowed to prevent. Even if it meant sacrificing his own fragile life in the process, for the fight was no longer just for his family, but for history, for truth, for the very concept of reality, a battle against an ancient evil that sought to unravel the very essence of existence, and the cold, damp air of the crypt, once a sanctuary of quiet despair, now felt like a crucible, a forge where his grief and fury were slowly, painfully, being hammered into a sharpened resolve, a powerful, unyielding determination that hardened his young heart, preparing him for the monumental task ahead, a task that required not just courage, but a profound understanding of his father's hidden genius, a deep dive into the complex world of mechanical magic and temporal mechanics, a world far removed from the simple reality of bread and flour, a world he now had to master with an astonishing speed. He spent the next few days, hidden deep beneath the old, abandoned church, meticulously poring over his father's blueprints, his detailed schematics, his cryptic notes, his small fingers tracing the intricate components of the clockwork device, his mind, though untutored in formal academics, absorbing the information with an astonishing speed, an intuitive understanding that spoke of a hidden brilliance, an inherited genius, a natural aptitude for the very science that the cult sought to pervert, a talent that had lain dormant, waiting for this desperate, terrifying moment to awaken, and Renan, his steadfast companion, his unwavering ally, remained by his side, her small figure a silent sentinel, her sharp eyes constantly scanning the crumbling crypt above for any suspicious sounds, any hint of the cult's agents, her presence a comforting anchor in the dizzying whirlwind of Anatole's newfound purpose, a constant source of strength and reassurance in the overwhelming darkness. Her quiet support a powerful balm to his frayed nerves, strengthening his resolve with every passing moment. She often read aloud from the scroll of Thoth, its ancient hieroglyphs now revealing deeper, more profound meanings when viewed through the lens of his father's mechanical genius, the cryptic symbols intertwining with the technological schematics, forming a comprehensive blueprint of the cult's operations, its ancient magic and its advanced technology now understood as two terrifying sides of the same insidious coin. A horrifying fusion of primordial evil and cutting-edge science, a complete picture of the enemy they faced, and her soft, rhythmic voice, filled with the echoes of ancient wisdom, of counterspells and purification rituals, of the weaknesses of Apep and his silent ones, filled the crypt, providing Anatole with the spiritual and magical knowledge to complement his father's mechanical ingenuity, a perfect, powerful fusion of ancient magic and modern technology, a holistic approach to fighting a multifaceted, deeply entrenched evil, a formidable arsenal against a cosmic horror that transcended simple understanding. The jar of ink, carefully placed on a small, elevated ledge among the dusty sarcophagi, glowed with a soft, protective aura, its pure essence radiating a subtle, benevolent energy that permeated the workshop, cleansing the air, subtly warding off any lingering malevolence, a powerful symbol of divine aid, a constant source of spiritual strength, reminding them that they were not entirely alone in their desperate struggle, that the forces of Ma'at, of truth and balance, were also silently supporting their perilous quest, lending their ancient power to two young, forgotten children, a fragile but potent shield against the encroaching darkness. Anatole's hands, once calloused and rough from the endless toil of brick-making, now grew surprisingly nimble, delicate, precise, as he meticulously assembled the remaining components of the clockwork device, his father's magnificent creation, fitting intricate gears, soldering delicate wires with a steady hand, calibrating shimmering crystals that pulsed with a gentle golden light. Each precise movement a testament to his growing skill, his unwavering focus, his desperate determination, transforming him from a simple street urchin into a burgeoning master of arcane mechanics, a silent tribute to his brilliant, defiant father, whose legacy was now being resurrected in the heart of revolutionary Paris. As the device slowly took shape, its polished brass casing gleaming, its intricate mechanisms humming with a low, steady energy, its delicate hands rotating with a mesmerizing precision, radiating a warm, benevolent glow, a stark contrast to the malevolent hum of the cult's dark crystal, Anatole felt a profound, almost spiritual sense of connection to his father, a silent conversation across the chasm of death. A shared purpose that transcended the boundaries of time, a feeling of being guided, protected, empowered by the enduring legacy of his brilliant, defiant parent, a bond that strengthened his resolve with every passing moment, making him feel less alone, more capable, more determined than ever. He knew, with absolute certainty, that this magnificent device, the Chronos Stabilizer, as his father's notes had cryptically named it, was the key to disrupting the cult's temporal distortions, to preventing their manipulation of time, to saving France from an eternal abyss of chaos, to saving history itself from being rewritten, to restoring the natural flow of existence, a monumental task that now rested squarely on his young, determined shoulders, a heavy weight that he now carried with a quiet, unwavering strength, his pure heart a defiant beacon against the encroaching darkness. His father's map, the detailed diagram of the subterranean tunnels and the precise location of the Chronos Nexus, now became their primary guide, a comprehensive blueprint for their final, desperate assault, a path fraught with immense peril, filled with unknown dangers, but now, a path they were fully prepared to face, armed with ancient knowledge from the Scroll of Thoth, divine protection from the Jar of Ankh, and the cutting-edge arcane technology of his father's genius, a formidable arsenal against an enemy that combined the oldest and newest evils, a battle that would redefine the very meaning of survival. As the final gear clicked into place, as the last crystal shimmered with a vibrant, golden light, the Chronos Stabilizer, his father's masterpiece, sprang to life, its intricate mechanisms humming with a low, steady energy, its delicate hands rotating with a mesmerizing precision, its polished brass casing radiating a warm, benevolent glow, a magnificent testament to his father's genius. A powerful weapon against the cult's temporal manipulations, a beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness. A silent promise of triumph. Anatole held it in his trembling hands, its cool, smooth surface feeling strangely alive, pulsing with the combined power of ancient magic and cutting-edge technology, a physical embodiment of his father's legacy, his heart swelling with a mix of profound triumph, lingering grief, and a renewed sense of unwavering determination, knowing that this was his moment, his destiny, his chance to fight back against the darkness that had consumed his world. The night of their final, most dangerous mission arrived, a cold, starless night that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of the coming struggle, the city of Paris shrouded in a thick, oppressive silence, broken only by the distant, muffled sounds of revolutionary patrols and the occasional, mournful howl of a stray dog, a profound stillness that belied the monumental, cosmic battle that was about to unfold deep beneath its ancient, blood-soaked streets, a struggle that would determine not just the fate of France, but the very fabric of time and reality itself. Anatole and Renan, their faces grim but their eyes burning with a fierce, unwavering determination, made their final preparations, their bodies tense but their spirits resolute, their mission clear: to infiltrate Robespierre's palace, to navigate the subterranean labyrinth, to reach the Chronos Nexus, and to shatter the cult's temporal machine, to restore the balance of time, to free France from the insidious grip of Apep, and to avenge his parents, to honor his father's legacy, to bring light back to the shadows that threatened to consume their world, a quest that was now etched into the very core of their being, a desperate gamble with the highest possible stakes. They exited the hidden workshop, sealing the flagstone behind them, leaving the comforting echoes of his father's genius for the terrifying reality of the city above, the Chronos Stabilizer carefully concealed beneath Anatole's tunic, its golden glow a secret warmth against his chest, a powerful, silent guardian against the encroaching darkness, the Jar of Ankh cradled gently by Renan, its protective aura subtly shimmering, its cool, smooth clay a promise of divine protection, a vital shield against the cult's dark magic. They made their way stealthily through the deserted streets of Paris, their bare feet silent on the cold cobblestones, their shadows long and dancing in the faint moonlight filtering through the heavy clouds, moving like true phantoms through the sleeping city, their senses heightened, every nerve awake, their ears straining for any sound, their eyes scanning every alleyway, every doorway, every flickering lantern light, searching for any sign of Necbet's agents. Knowing that the cult would be even more vigilant now, their presence a constant, suffocating threat, a palpable evil that seemed to seep from the very stones of the city. They reached Robespierre's palace walls, a massive, imposing structure that seemed to pierce the very heavens, its gleaming limestone bathed in the pale moonlight, a symbol of divine power and earthly grandeur. But for Anatole and Renan, it was a fortress of hidden evil, a gilded cage holding the heart of Apep's temporal corruption, a place where history itself was being rewritten, where the past, present, and future hung in a delicate, terrifying balance, a place where time was a mere plaything for primordial chaos. They found the hidden servant's entrance, the same unassuming door they had learned about, cleverly disguised as a part of the palace wall, its existence known only to a select few, and as Anatole carefully pushed it open, a faint, metallic squeak echoing in the profound silence, he felt a wave of cold air drift from within, carrying with it the unmistakable sickly sweet smell. The disturbing perfume of decay and unnatural chemicals, the very scent of Apep's ancient evil, now much stronger. Almost overwhelming, a terrifying confirmation that they were indeed at the very threshold of the cult's dark domain, a place where time itself was being bent to the will of chaos, where reality was being unraveled, thread by terrifying thread. They slipped inside, into a labyrinthine network of dimly lit service corridors, their bare feet silent on the cold stone floor, their hearts pounding in unison, a frantic rhythm of shared fear and unwavering determination, their minds focused on his father's map, on the precise, perilous path to the Chronos Nexus, the ultimate source of the cult's temporal power. A terrifying journey into the very heart of a cosmic abomination, a descent into the maw of corrupted time. The corridors were a maze of twists and turns, filled with the hushed echoes of their own footsteps, the distant drip of water from unseen cracks, and the occasional scuttling of unseen creatures, a subterranean world of ancient stone and creeping darkness, a place where every shadow seemed to hide a lurking danger, every doorway a potential trap, every moment a perilous gamble. A journey that felt like a descent into the very bowels of time itself, a relentless plunge into the unknown. Renan, guided by her photographic memory of his father's map, a map that detailed not just physical pathways but also temporal anomalies and energy conduits, led the way with an uncanny precision, her small figure moving with a silent grace, her eyes sharp and watchful, constantly scanning the carved walls for the cryptic symbols that marked their path, for the warnings of hidden traps and guarded checkpoints, for the subtle fluctuations in the temporal field, her intuitive understanding of the intricate mechanical and temporal diagrams proving invaluable in their perilous journey, a true testament to her growing skills, her unwavering courage, her hidden talents blossoming in the face of ultimate peril. Anatole, holding the chrono stabilizer beneath his tunic, its golden glow a warm, comforting presence against his chest, a subtle counter-vibration against the growing temporal distortions, walked closely behind her, his hand instinctively reaching for the bone amulet, its cool, smooth surface a fragile comfort, a silent talisman against the encroaching darkness, its single upward-looking eye a beacon of divine guidance. His young voice softly, carefully, murmuring the ancient incantations he had learned from the Scroll of Thoth, a protective chant that seemed to resonate through the cold stone, a subtle ward against the malevolent energies that permeated the air, a spiritual shield against the cult's dark magic and its temporal influence, strengthening their resolve with every word. They encountered several silent ones, palace guards whose faces were empty, their eyes devoid of emotion, their movements robotic and precise, their minds clearly under Apep's insidious influence, terrifying sentinels guarding the cult's hidden passages. But these were different from the crude, silent ones of the construction site. These were subtly enhanced, their movements faster, their reactions sharper, their forms radiating a faint, greenish glow. A terrifying fusion of mechanical magic and human corruption, a chilling testament to the cult's advanced experiments, their bodies subtly altered, their strength amplified, their senses sharpened by Apep's dark power, making them formidable foes, far more dangerous than any ordinary guard. As these enhanced silent ones lunged at them, their bronze spears gleaming menacingly in the dim light, their movements impossibly swift, almost blurring in their peripheral vision due to localized temporal distortions around them, Khepri, remembering the scroll's instructions and his father's warnings, quickly unsealed the jar of ink, its pure, untainted essence of the Nile glowing with a soft, protective light. A beacon of cleansing power against the encroaching darkness, and Renan, with surprising agility, splashed the glowing water onto the attacking guards, and with a searing hiss and a blinding flash of golden light, the Enhanced Silent Ones recoiled, their forms momentarily distorted, their green glow flickering, their eyes briefly filled with an agonizing flicker of lost humanity, a profound flicker of pain and confusion as Apep's grip momentarily weakened, their movements temporarily disrupted, their minds momentarily freed from Apep's grip, a glimpse of the terrible suffering they endured under the cult's control, a fleeting window of opportunity to bypass them, to push deeper into the cult's lair, a moment of tragic recognition that solidified Anatole's resolve, a burning desire to free these lost souls, even in their corrupted state. Khepri and Renan, using this fleeting moment of disruption, darted past the stunned guards, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and triumph, knowing that the jar of ink was indeed a powerful weapon, a divine gift that could temporarily sever Apep's corrupting influence. But its power was limited, its effects temporary, and they knew they had to use it wisely, judiciously, only when truly necessary. A fragile yet potent tool in their desperate struggle against overwhelming odds, a precious resource that needed to be conserved for the most critical moments of their perilous quest. They continued their perilous journey, deeper and deeper into the palace's hidden underworld, navigating a series of increasingly complex and deadly traps, collapsing floors triggered by hidden pressure plates that activated a temporal displacement field, poisoned darts launched from cleverly concealed apertures that shimmered with a faint green light, optical illusions designed to disorient and mislead, temporal distortions that caused moments to stretch into seeming eternities or compress into fleeting blips, making their perceptions unreliable, their movements erratic, each one meticulously designed to deter intruders, to protect the cult's deepest secrets. But Renan, guided by his father's map and her own sharp intuition, now enhanced by the subtle influence of the jar of Ank's protective aura, deftly disarmed each trap, her quick mind and nimble fingers proving to be invaluable. Her courage unwavering in the face of immense danger, her understanding of the mechanical and temporal traps uncanny, as if she could perceive the very flow of manipulated time, a hidden talent that blossomed in the face of peril, making her an indispensable partner in their desperate mission, a true master of navigating chaos. The air grew heavier, thicker, imbued with an overwhelming sense of primordial darkness and a strange, disorienting temporal distortion, a suffocating malevolence that seemed to press down on them, trying to crush their spirits, to fill them with despair, to warp their minds, a palpable manifestation of Apep's insidious influence, and its terrifying temporal power, its presence growing stronger with every step they took, making the very fabric of reality feel thin and unstable, threatening to unravel their very existence, to dissolve them into the chaotic ether, a profound assault on their senses and their sanity. Khepri, feeling the oppressive weight of the darkness and the disorienting pull of the temporal distortions, clutched the Chronos stabilizer even tighter, its golden glow now intensely bright, fighting against the encroaching evil, its intricate mechanisms humming with a powerful, protective energy, a counter-vibration against the chaotic temporal flux, his young voice whispering the ancient incantations with a renewed fervor. His pure heart a defiant beacon against the tide of chaos, a living anchor in the shifting currents of manipulated time, grounding their reality against the cult's insidious influence, strengthening their will, clarifying their purpose, even as the very air around them twisted and shimmered. Nekbet's distorted voice reverberated through the Chronos nexus, filling the chamber with a terrifying, multi-layered echo of impending doom, threatening to shatter their very will. Each syllable seeming to ripple through the very air, vibrating in Anatole's bones, a physical assault on his senses, a horrifying symphony of chaotic energy and malevolent intent that echoed through the vast, oppressive space, making the very concept of sanity feel fragile, elusive, and the green light, pulsing from Nekbet's staff and the eyes of the perfected temporal silent ones, seemed to twist the very air, making it shimmer with an unnatural, sickly hue. A visual manifestation of the temporal distortions that were rapidly escalating, making the entire chamber feel as if it were a fragile bubble of reality, constantly threatening to pop, to unravel into the abyss of non-existence. And Anatole, clutching the Chronos stabilizer hidden beneath his tunic, its golden glow a desperate, warm counterpulse against the encroaching temporal chaos, felt a cold dread wash over him, a profound, primal fear that threatened to paralyze him completely. But deep within his young heart, a fierce, unyielding resolve burned, a defiant spark that refused to be extinguished, fueled by the memory of his parents, their gentle faces, their stolen lives, their very existence now threatened with cosmic erasure, a fate far worse than death, and Renan, standing rigidly beside him, her small figure trembling slightly, but her eyes, usually so shy, now blazing with a quiet, fierce courage, seemed to draw strength from the sheer impossibility of their situation, her hand instinctively reaching for the jar of ink. Its cool, smooth clay a promise of protection, a tangible link to the divine power that was their only hope against this ancient, technologically advanced evil. And Nekbet, seeing their unwavering defiance, his cruel sneer widening, a serpentine glint in his malevolent green eyes, let out a low, sibilant chuckle, a sound that seemed to scrape against the very edges of time. Foolish children! Do you truly believe your petty magic, your crude contraptions, can stand against the will of a Pep, against the boundless power of primordial chaos, against the mastery of causality itself? You are but specks of dust in the grand tapestry we weave, easily unwritten, easily forgotten, your pathetic lives mere footnotes in a history that will soon be entirely our own design. His voice, echoing with its multi-layered temporal distortion, seemed to emanate from multiple points in time, a terrifying cacophony of distorted reality that hammered against Anatole's ears, threatening to shatter his concentration, to disorient him completely, making the very ground beneath his feet feel as if it were shifting, unstable, pulling him into a vortex of non-existence. And as Nekbet raised his glowing staff even higher, its crystal pulsing with an alarming intensity, the miniature, rapidly spinning clockwork mechanism at its top shimmering with an unstable temporal energy that seemed to warp the very air around it, the perfected temporal silent ones, their forms shimmering faintly with a green temporal energy, lunged forward with impossibly swift movements, their bronze spears gleaming ominously, appearing and disappearing in blinks. Almost as if they were stepping in and out of the timeline itself, their speed and precision terrifying, a synchronized attack. Designed to overwhelm, to annihilate, to erase, and Khepri, remembering his father's warnings about the temporal manipulation, about the need for immediate, decisive action, knew there was no time for hesitation, no time for fear, only time to act, to deploy his father's genius against the ancient evil, and with a guttural cry of desperate resolve, he pulled the Chronos stabilizer from beneath his tunic. Its golden light flaring brightly, illuminating the terror in the chamber, and with a powerful surge of adrenaline, he thrust it forward, its intricate mechanisms humming to life with a resonant, counter-vibrating energy, not aiming for a direct strike, but for a disruption, a counterpulse against the chaotic temporal flux that permeated the nexus. And as the Chronos stabilizer's golden energy collided with the green, malevolent temporal energy of Nekbet's staff and the surrounding nexus, a deafening crack ripped through the chamber, a sound that seemed to tear the very fabric of reality, followed by a blinding flash of golden and green light that enveloped the entire space, temporarily disorienting everyone, including Nekbet and his silent ones, and a powerful wave of chaotic energy, a temporal shockwave, erupted outwards from the point of collision, sending Anatole and Renan sprawling backward, their bodies aching from the sudden impact, their minds reeling from the disorienting rush of conflicting temporal energies, and for a fleeting moment the Chronos nexus seemed to scream, a high-pitched, metallic shriek that echoed through the subterranean labyrinth, as its intricate mechanisms shuddered violently, its pulsating green crystal at its heart flickering erratically, its temporal distortions momentarily destabilized, its power momentarily weakened, and the perfected temporal silent ones, caught in the temporal shockwave, stumbled, their movements becoming erratic, their shimmering forms flickering with an agonizing return of their lost humanity. Their eyes briefly filled with a profound confusion, a raw, primal pain as a Pep's grip momentarily loosened, the temporal enchantment briefly disrupted, a tragic glimpse of the suffering they endured under the cult's control, a fleeting window of opportunity that Khepri, despite his dazed state, immediately recognized as their only chance. Renan, recovering quickly from the temporal shockwave, her eyes wide but her mind sharp, instinctively knew what to do, and with a desperate cry of, "Now, Khepri! The Ankh!" She unsealed the jar of Ankh, its pure, untainted essence of the Nile glowing with a radiant, protective light, and with surprising agility, she splashed the glowing water onto the nearest group of stumbling, temporarily disoriented silent ones, and with a searing hiss and a blinding flash of golden light, the corrupted temporal energy that bound them flared violently, then recoiled, their green glow flickering. their eyes briefly filled with an agonizing flicker of lost humanity, a profound flicker of pain and confusion as Apep's grip momentarily weakened, their movements temporarily disrupted, their minds momentarily freed from Apep's insidious influence, a more profound, albeit fleeting, moment of clarity than before, a glimpse of the terrible suffering they endured under the cult's control, their forms shimmering with a faint temporal resonance as the jar's pure essence fought against the corrupting temporal magic, and Khepri, using this fleeting moment of disruption, darted forward, pulling Renan with him, their path now illuminated by the lingering golden glow of the jar of Ank's purifying essence, past the stunned, recovering silent ones, deeper into the heart of the Chronos Nexus, towards the central temporal device that pulsed with a malevolent green light, the ultimate source of Apep's power, a terrifying nexus of gears, crystals, and dark, ancient energy. A place where time itself was being actively unraveled, thread by terrifying thread, and Nekbet, recovering from the temporal shockwave, his face twisted into a mask of pure rage, his eyes burning with a malevolent, reptilian fury, bellowed, his voice still distorted by a temporal echo but now laced with a raw, primal anger. "Fools! You cannot defy Apep! You cannot disrupt its will! This is but a temporary setback. Silent ones! Seize them! Erase them from existence!" His words, a terrifying command, spurred the remaining perfected temporal silent ones into action, their movements now even faster, more erratic, as if they were trying to compensate for the temporal disruption, their forms blurring in and out of reality, their bronze spears shimmering with a dangerous temporal energy, a renewed, desperate assault designed to prevent Anatole and Renan from reaching the heart of Apep, the pulsating dark crystal that was the core of the Chronos Nexus, the source of all its temporal malevolence. Khepri, holding the Chronos stabilizer, its golden light blazing, fought against the oppressive darkness and the disorienting pull of the temporal distortions that now filled the Nexus, making the very air shimmer and undulate, his young voice softly, carefully, murmuring the ancient incantations he had learned from the Scroll of Thoth, a protective chant that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of the manipulated time. A subtle ward against the malevolent energies that permeated the air. A spiritual shield against the cult's dark magic and its temporal influence, strengthening their resolve with every word, while Renan, her small figure moving with an almost impossible agility, splashed the remaining glowing water from the jar of Ankh onto the floor, creating a shimmering, golden barrier that momentarily pushed back the encroaching silent ones, their corrupted temporal energy recoiling from the pure essence of the Nile, buying them precious seconds, a brief respite in their desperate race against time. They continued their perilous journey, deeper and deeper into the Chronos Nexus, navigating a series of increasingly complex and deadly temporal traps, collapsing floors triggered by pressure plates that now activated even more extreme temporal displacement fields, throwing them forward or backward through fleeting moments, poisoned darts launched from cleverly concealed apertures that shimmered with a faint green light, their trajectories warped by temporal eddies, making them almost impossible to dodge, optical illusions designed to disorient and mislead, causing them to see alternate pasts or possible futures, driving them to madness, and even stronger temporal distortions that caused moments to stretch into seeming eternities or compress into fleeting blips, making their perceptions unreliable, their movements erratic, each one meticulously designed to deter intruders, to protect the cult's deepest secrets. But Renan, guided by his father's map and her own sharp intuition, now enhanced by the subtle influence of the jar of Ankh's protective aura, deftly disarmed each trap, her quick mind and nimble fingers proving to be invaluable, her courage unwavering in the face of immense danger, her understanding of the mechanical and temporal traps uncanny, as if she could perceive the very flow of manipulated time, a hidden talent that blossomed in the face of peril, making her an indispensable partner in their desperate mission, a true master of navigating chaos, her small figure a blur of focused determination, her eyes, usually shy, now burning with a fierce, unwavering light, a reflection of her boundless courage. The air grew heavier, thicker, imbued with an overwhelming sense of primordial darkness and a strange, disorienting temporal distortion that seemed to actively resist their presence, a suffocating malevolence that seemed to press down on them, trying to crush their spirits, to fill them with despair, to warp their minds, a palpable manifestation of Apep's insidious influence, and its terrifying temporal power. Its presence growing stronger with every step they took, making the very fabric of reality feel thin and unstable, threatening to unravel their very existence, to dissolve them into the chaotic ether, a profound assault on their senses and their sanity, making them question every perception, every memory, every fragment of their own reality, a terrifying descent into the heart of madness. Khepri, feeling the oppressive weight of the darkness and the disorienting pull of the temporal distortions, clutched the Chronos stabilizer even tighter, its golden glow now intensely bright, fighting against the encroaching evil, its intricate mechanisms humming with a powerful, protective energy, a counter-vibration against the chaotic temporal flux, his young voice whispering the ancient incantations with a renewed fervor. His pure heart a defiant beacon against the tide of chaos, a living anchor in the shifting currents of manipulated time, grounding their reality against the cult's insidious influence, strengthening their will, clarifying their purpose, even as the very air around them twisted and shimmered, threatening to pull them into a forgotten past or a terrifying future, a brave struggle against the unmaking of existence itself. They finally reached the heart of the Chronos Nexus, a massive, cavernous chamber, its obsidian walls shimmering with intricate, glowing symbols that pulsed with a deep, malevolent green light, the very essence of Apep's temporal power, and in the center of the chamber, suspended above a swirling vortex of dark, pulsating energy, was a colossal, intricate clockwork mechanism, its gears grinding, its springs coiling, its hands spinning wildly, radiating an immense, malevolent green light that warped the very air around it, the ultimate temporal machine, the true heart of the cult's power, a terrifying fusion of ancient magic and advanced technology, a monstrous contraption designed to unravel time itself, and at the very core of this colossal machine, encased within layers of shimmering, dark crystal, pulsed the heart of Apep, a dark, pulsating crystal, no larger than a man's head, but radiating a suffocating malevolence, a palpable darkness that seemed to absorb all light, all hope, all joy, the true source of the cult's primordial power, a relic of ultimate chaos, its rhythmic beat echoing through the chamber, a monstrous heartbeat of corrupted time, and standing before this terrifying machine, his face twisted into a mask of cruel triumph, his eyes burning with a malevolent green light that pulsed with the crystal's beat, was Nekbet, now seemingly merged with the temporal energies of the Nexus. His form subtly shifting, almost shimmering with a faint green temporal resonance, his voice, now a booming, multi-layered roar, distorted by the very chaos he commanded. "You are too late, children! The ritual is complete! The heart of Apep is fully awakened! Time bends to its will! The past is rewritten! The future is ours! And you will be but a forgotten whisper in a history that never was! Behold the true power of Apep!" His words, echoing with a terrifying, multi-layered temporal distortion, seemed to shatter the very air, filling the chamber with a terrifying, overwhelming sense of impending doom, threatening to unravel their very minds, to plunge them into madness, to erase their very existence from the timeline, a deafening roar of corrupted time, a terrifying symphony of ultimate destruction, and as he spoke, the colossal clockwork mechanism roared, its gears grinding, its crystals flaring, and a powerful wave of temporal energy, a cosmic ripple, erupted outwards, making the entire chamber shudder violently, the obsidian walls groaning under the immense strain, as if reality itself were tearing apart, and in that terrifying moment, Anatole felt a profound, disorienting pull, a sensation of being stretched, pulled apart, as his mind was assaulted by a torrent of terrifying visions. Glimpses of alternate pasts where the revolution had never happened, where France was forever enslaved under an eternal monarchy, visions of alternate futures where Paris lay in ruins, consumed by an endless, primordial darkness, its people transformed into emotionless husks, servants of Apep, and terrifying flashes of his own past, his parents' gentle faces, his simple village, all flickering, wavering, threatening to dissolve into non-existence, to be unwritten from the fabric of time. A horrifying realization that the cult was not just manipulating time, but actively erasing, rewriting, consuming history itself, making the very concept of his own existence feel fragile, temporary, and utterly dependent on their success in this desperate, final battle. This horrifying temporal assault injected a fresh wave of terror into Anatole, a profound fear of losing everything, of losing himself, but also, surprisingly, a fierce, unyielding resolve, a burning desire to prevent this ultimate abomination, to fight back against an evil that sought to not just destroy lives, but to erase history, to unravel the very essence of existence, and he knew, with a sickening certainty, that he had to complete his father's work, to finish the Chronos stabilizer, to fully understand its intricate workings, and to use it to disrupt the Chronos nexus, to prevent the cult's temporal manipulation, to save France, to save history, to save the very concept of time itself, a monumental task that now rested squarely on his young, determined shoulders, a heavy weight that he now carried with a quiet, unwavering strength, his pure heart a defiant beacon against the encroaching darkness. Renan, also assailed by the temporal visions, her small body trembling uncontrollably, but her eyes, though wide with terror, remained fixed on Anatole, a silent promise of unwavering support, her hand instinctively reaching for the empty jar of ink, its protective aura now subtly shimmering. A desperate reminder of the divine aid that had brought them this far, and as Nekbet laughed, his distorted voice echoing with triumph. Witness, children, the unmaking of your pathetic reality. Witness the birth of Apep's true empire. Khepri, with a guttural cry of desperate resolve, pulled the Chronos stabilizer from beneath his tunic, its golden light blazing, fighting against the overwhelming temporal distortions, its intricate mechanisms humming with a powerful, counter-vibrating energy. And with a powerful surge of adrenaline, he lunged forward, not aiming for Nekbet, not for the silent ones, but for the heart of the colossal clockwork mechanism, the shimmering, dark crystal that pulsed with the malevolent green light. The heart of Apep, the ultimate source of the cult's primordial temporal power, knowing that this was their only chance, their only path to freedom, to survival, to the preservation of existence itself. Nekbet, startled by Anatole's sudden, unexpected charge, his triumphant sneer momentarily faltering, bellowed a command to his perfected temporal silent ones. Stop him! Erase him! Do not let him touch the Nexus! But Khepri, fueled by a primal scream of rage and grief, was impossibly fast, his small body a blur of motion, weaving through the lumbering forms of the silent ones, their temporal manipulation momentarily disrupted by the Chronos stabilizer's counterpulse, their movements slightly lagging, their attacks a fraction of a second too slow, and as he reached the colossal clockwork mechanism, its gears grinding, its crystals flaring, its temporal energy pulsing with an unbearable intensity, he felt the terrifying pull of the temporal vortex, a sensation of being stretched and compressed simultaneously, of his very atoms threatening to unravel, but he pushed through it, his mind focused solely on the heart of Apep, the dark, pulsating crystal, the source of all their suffering, all their fear, all their peril, and with a final, desperate cry. For my parents! For France! For time! He slammed the Chronos stabilizer against the shimmering, dark crystal, its golden light colliding with the malevolent green, a cataclysmic clash of ancient magic and cutting-edge technology, a battle for the very soul of existence, a moment that would define the true meaning of why living in ancient Egypt, and now revolutionary France, wasn't as glamorous as anyone imagined, revealing a truth far stranger, far deadlier, and far more terrifying than any myth or legend, a reality that pulsed with every beat of their racing hearts, every whisper of Apep's malevolent hum, every temporal distortion that warped the very air around them, every step they took into the Chronos nexus, ready to face their ultimate fate, ready to fight for the light, for freedom, for the very essence of humanity, against the ancient, terrifying power of the cult of Apep and its mastery over time itself. A power that now stood directly before them, its eyes burning with a primordial evil, eager to claim its final, defiant victims, to erase them from existence, to rewrite the very narrative of their world, a horrifying climax to their perilous journey, a moment that would determine the fate of not just ancient Egypt, but the very fabric of time and reality itself, a battle that would shake the foundations of existence, a clash between the purest hearts and the most ancient evil. With the very echoes of creation hanging in the balance, a desperate struggle that would define why living in ancient Egypt was anything but glamorous, revealing a truth far stranger and deadlier than any pharaoh's curse or pyramid secret, as Nekbet's distorted voice reverberated through the Chronos nexus, filling the chamber with a terrifying, multi-layered echo of impending doom, threatening to shatter their very will, and Anatole, with his heart pounding, faced the ultimate truth of the French Revolution. A truth that transcended mere human conflict and delved into the terrifying depths of cosmic manipulation, a desperate fight for the very soul of time, a battle he knew he could not lose, for the sake of all who had been, and all who would ever be, a singular, defiant act against the unmaking of existence itself. A power that now stood directly before them, its eyes burning with a primordial evil, eager to claim its final, defiant victims, to erase them from existence, to rewrite the very narrative of their world, a horrifying climax to their perilous journey, a moment that would determine the fate of not just ancient Egypt, but the very fabric of time and reality itself, a battle that would shake the foundations of existence. A clash between the purest hearts and the most ancient evil, with the very echoes of creation hanging in the balance, a desperate struggle that would define why living in ancient Egypt was anything but glamorous, revealing a truth far stranger and deadlier than any pharaoh's curse or pyramid's secret, as Nekbet's distorted voice reverberated through the Chronos nexus, filling the chamber with a terrifying, multi-layered echo of impending doom, threatening to shatter their very will, and Anatole, with his heart pounding, faced the ultimate truth of the French Revolution, a truth that transcended mere human conflict and delved into the terrifying depths of cosmic manipulation, a desperate fight for the very soul of time, a battle he knew he could not lose, for the sake of all who had been, and all who would ever be, a singular, defiant act against the unmaking of existence itself. The colossal clockwork mechanism, with its grinding gears and flaring crystals, roared louder now, a monstrous symphony of temporal chaos that filled the immense chamber, its malevolent green light pulsating with an alarming intensity, casting grotesque, shifting shadows that danced like tortured spirits across the obsidian walls, making the very air shimmer and warp with an unnatural, sickening hue. A visual manifestation of the raw, untamed temporal distortions that were rapidly escalating, threatening to tear the very fabric of reality apart, making the entire Chronos nexus feel like a fragile bubble of existence, constantly on the verge of popping, to unravel into the abyss of non-existence, and Anatole, fueled by a surge of desperate resolve, by a primal scream of rage and grief for his lost parents, their gentle faces flickering in his mind like fading photographs, their stolen lives, their very existence now hanging by a thread, threatened with cosmic erasure, a fate far worse than death, a complete unmaking that he, with every fiber of his young being, vowed to prevent, even if it meant sacrificing his own fragile life, his own existence, in the process, for the battle was no longer just for his family, but for France, for history, for truth, for the very concept of reality, a desperate fight against an ancient evil that sought to unravel the very essence of existence, to consume all time, all memory, all future, a cosmic horror beyond human comprehension now. Manifest in the heart of revolutionary Paris, and Renan, her small body trembling uncontrollably from the sheer magnitude of the temporal chaos, the overwhelming power of Apep's ancient magic, but her eyes, though wide with terror, remained fixed on Anatole, a silent promise of unwavering support, a powerful beacon of shared courage in the swirling vortex of impending doom. Her hand instinctively reaching for the empty jar of ink, its protective aura, though weakened, still subtly shimmering. A desperate reminder of the divine aid that had brought them this far, a tangible link to the forces of Ma'at, of truth and balance, that were their only hope against this ancient, technologically advanced evil, this primordial darkness that sought to consume all, and Nekbet, his face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage, his eyes burning with a malevolent, reptilian fury, his voice, a booming, multi-layered roar, distorted by the temporal echo, now laced with a raw primal anger, seemed to swell with the power of the nexus, his form subtly shifting, almost shimmering with a faint green temporal resonance, seemingly merging with the temporal energies he commanded, becoming a terrifying, almost divine manifestation of Apep's will, a terrifying, grotesque fusion of human malevolence and primordial chaos. Foolish, pathetic children! Do you truly believe your petty magic, your crude contraptions, can stand against the will of Apep, against the boundless, infinite power of primordial chaos, against the absolute mastery of causality itself? You are but insignificant specks of dust in the grand, eternal tapestry we weave, easily unwritten, easily forgotten, your pathetic, fleeting lives mere footnotes in a history that will soon be entirely our own design, our own creation, A new reality forged in the fires of chaos. A world where a pep reigns supreme, where time bows to our will, where all existence is merely a reflection of our dark desires. His voice, echoing with its multi-layered temporal distortion, seemed to emanate from countless points in time, a terrifying cacophony of distorted reality that hammered against Anatole's ears, threatening to shatter his concentration, to disorient him completely, making the very ground beneath his feet feel as if it were constantly shifting, unstable, pulling him into a terrifying vortex of non-existence. A cosmic vacuum that yearned to erase all traces of his being, and as Necbet raised his glowing staff even higher, its dark crystal pulsing with an alarming, almost blinding intensity, the miniature, rapidly spinning clockwork mechanism at its top shimmering with an intensely unstable temporal energy that seemed to warp the very air around it, creating localized eddies of chaos, the perfected temporal silent ones, their forms shimmering faintly with a green temporal energy, lunged forward with impossibly swift movements, their bronze spears gleaming ominously, appearing and almost as if they were stepping in and out of the timeline itself, their speed and precision terrifyingly unnatural, a synchronized attack designed not just to overwhelm, but to annihilate, to erase their very existence from the fabric of time, their every move a temporal assault, a terrifying dance with causality itself, and Anatole, remembering his father's urgent warnings about the temporal manipulation, about the critical need for immediate, decisive action before the cult's power became absolute, knew there was absolutely no time for hesitation, no time for fear, only time to act, to deploy his father's magnificent genius against the ancient evil, to unleash the counterforce that could stabilize reality, and with a guttural, primal cry of desperate resolve that echoed his inner pain and burning fury, he pulled the Chronos stabilizer from beneath his tunic, its golden light flaring brightly, illuminating the terror and chaos in the chamber, its intricate mechanisms humming to life with a resonant, powerful, counter-vibrating energy, not aiming for a direct strike against Necbet or his silent ones, but for a fundamental disruption, a powerful counterpulse against the chaotic temporal flux that permeated the entire Chronos nexus, a desperate attempt to reset the temporal balance. And as the Chronos stabilizer's golden energy collided with the green, malevolent temporal energy of Necbet's staff and the surrounding nexus, a deafening crack, a sound that seemed to tear the very fabric of reality, to rip open the veil between dimensions, rip through the chamber, followed by a blinding, cosmic flash of golden and green light that enveloped the entire immense space, temporarily disorienting everyone, including Necbet and his silent ones, throwing them into a moment of pure, unadulterated chaos, a blinding, deafening maelstrom of conflicting energies. And a powerful wave of chaotic energy, a temporal shockwave of immense magnitude, erupted outwards from the point of collision, sending Anatole and Renan sprawling backward, their bodies aching from the sudden, violent impact, their minds reeling from the disorienting, sickening rush of conflicting temporal energies, a dizzying assault on their very perception of reality, and for a fleeting, terrifying moment, the Chronos nexus seemed to scream, a high-pitched, metallic shriek that echoed through the subterranean labyrinth. A sound of unimaginable pain, of immense power destabilized, as its intricate mechanisms shuddered violently, its colossal gears grinding to a momentary halt, its pulsating green crystal at its heart flickering erratically, its malevolent green light dimming, its temporal distortions momentarily destabilized, its immense power momentarily weakened, and the perfected temporal silent ones, caught in the temporal shockwave, stumbled, their movements becoming erratic, their shimmering forms flickering with an agonizing, profound return of their lost humanity, their eyes briefly filled with a profound confusion, a raw, primal pain as a pep's grip momentarily loosened, the temporal enchantment briefly disrupted, a more profound, albeit fleeting, moment of clarity than before, a tragic glimpse of the terrible, unending suffering they endured under the cult's brutal control, their forms shimmering with a faint temporal resonance as the Chronos stabilizer's pure essence fought against the corrupting temporal magic, illuminating their lost souls, and Kepri, despite his dazed state, despite the searing pain in his body and the dizzying chaos in his mind, immediately recognized this precious, fleeting window of opportunity, this fragile moment of vulnerability in the heart of chaos, as their only, last chance to turn the tide, to fulfill his father's legacy, to save France, to save history, to save the very concept of time itself, a desperate gamble against insurmountable odds. Renan, recovering with astonishing quickness from the temporal shockwave, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and fierce determination, but her mind sharp, instinctively knew what to do. Her innate understanding of the flow of energy, of the delicate balance of Ma'at, guiding her actions, and with a desperate, guttural cry of, "Now, Kepri! The Ankh! Quickly!" She unsealed the jar of Ankh, its pure, untainted essence of the Nile glowing with a radiant, protective light that seemed to cut through the swirling green chaos, a beacon of cleansing power against the encroaching darkness, and with surprising agility, her small figure moving with a blur of speed, she splashed the glowing water onto the nearest group of stumbling, temporarily disoriented silent ones, and with a searing hiss and a blinding flash of golden light that momentarily dwarfed the green, malevolent energies, the corrupted temporal energy that bound them flared violently, then recoiled, their green glow flickering, their eyes briefly filled with an agonizing flicker of lost humanity, a profound flicker of pain and confusion as Apep's grip momentarily weakened even further, their movements temporarily disrupted, their minds momentarily freed from Apep's insidious influence. A more profound, albeit fleeting, moment of clarity than before, a devastating glimpse of the terrible, unending suffering they endured under the cult's brutal control, their forms shimmering with a faint, temporal resonance as the jar's pure essence fought fiercely against the corrupting temporal magic, their lost souls crying out for release, and Kepri, using this fleeting, precious moment of profound disruption, darted forward, pulling Renan with him, their path now illuminated by the lingering, purifying golden glow of the jar of Ankh's essence, a shining path through the swirling green chaos, past the stunned, recovering silent ones, deeper into the very heart of the Chronos Nexus, towards the central temporal device that pulsed with an alarming, malevolent green light, the ultimate source of Apep's power, a terrifying nexus of gears, crystals, and dark, ancient energy, a place where time itself was being actively unraveled, thread by terrifying thread, where reality was being reshaped by primordial chaos, and Nekbet finally recovering from the temporal shockwave, his face twisted into an even more monstrous mask of pure, unadulterated rage, his eyes burning with a malevolent, reptilian fury that seemed to radiate pure hatred bellowed, his voice still distorted by a temporal echo but now laced with a raw, primal anger, a desperate, guttural roar of defiance and command. "Fools! You cannot defy Apep! You cannot disrupt its will! This is but a temporary setback, an insignificant tremor! Silent ones! Seize them! Erase them from existence! Show them the true meaning of Apep's wrath, the ultimate consequence of their pathetic defiance!" His words, a terrifying, multi-layered command that reverberated through the very structure of the Nexus, spurred the remaining perfected temporal silent ones into even more frantic action, their movements now even faster, more erratic, as if they were trying to compensate for the temporal disruption, their forms blurring in and out of reality with unnerving speed, their bronze spears shimmering with a dangerous, unstable temporal energy, a renewed, desperate assault designed not just to prevent Anatole and Renan from reaching the heart of Apep, but to utterly obliterate them, to cast them into the abyss of non-existence, to ensure Apep's eternal reign over a manipulated reality, their every movement a terrifying dance with causality itself, their desperate attacks a horrifying manifestation of chaos unbound. Kepri, holding the Chronos stabilizer firmly, its golden light blazing fiercely, fighting with all its intricate mechanisms against the oppressive darkness and the disorienting, mind-bending pull of the temporal distortions that now filled the Nexus, making the very air shimmer and undulate with a sickening motion, his young voice softly, carefully, murmuring the ancient incantations he had learned from the Scroll of Thoth. A protective chant that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of the manipulated time, a subtle, powerful ward against the malevolent energies that permeated the air, a spiritual shield against the cult's dark magic and its temporal influence, strengthening their resolve with every word, grounding their reality against the cult's insidious influence, clarifying their purpose, even as the very air around them twisted and shimmered, threatening to pull them into a forgotten past or a terrifying future, a brave struggle against the unmaking of existence itself. A desperate defiance against the primordial chaos that sought to devour them whole, while Renan, her small figure moving with an almost impossible agility, an astonishing grace born of desperation and courage, splashed the remaining glowing water from the jar of Ankh onto the floor, creating a shimmering, golden barrier that momentarily pushed back the encroaching silent ones. Their corrupted temporal energy recoiling violently from the pure essence of the Nile, buying them precious seconds, a brief respite in their desperate, heart-pounding race against time, a fragile but potent shield in the heart of the storm. They continued their perilous, desperate journey, deeper and deeper into the swirling, chaotic heart of the Chronos Nexus, navigating a series of increasingly complex and deadly temporal traps, collapsing floors triggered by hidden pressure plates that now activated even more extreme, violent temporal displacement fields, throwing them forward or backward through fleeting moments, making their physical forms flicker erratically. Poison darts launched from cleverly concealed apertures that shimmered with a faint green light, their trajectories warped by unpredictable temporal eddies, making them almost impossible to dodge, optical illusions designed to disorient and mislead, causing them to see terrifying alternate pasts or horrifying possible futures, driving them to the brink of madness, forcing them to question their own senses, and even stronger, more violent temporal distortions that caused moments to stretch into seeming eternities or compress into fleeting blips, making their perceptions utterly unreliable, their movements erratic, each and every trap meticulously designed not just to deter intruders, but to utterly annihilate them, to protect the cult's deepest, darkest secrets, to guard the very heart of Apep's temporal power. But Renan, guided by his father's incredibly detailed map and her own sharp, intuitive understanding, now enhanced and sharpened by the subtle, protective influence of the jar of Ank's lingering aura, deftly disarmed each trap within astonishing speed and precision, her quick mind and nimble fingers proving to be absolutely invaluable, her courage unwavering in the face of immense, soul-crushing danger, her understanding of the mechanical and temporal traps uncanny, almost supernatural, as if she could perceive the very flow of manipulated time, a hidden talent that blossomed gloriously in the face of ultimate peril, making her an indispensable partner in their desperate, world-saving mission, a true master of navigating chaos, her small figure a blur of focused, fierce determination, her eyes, usually shy and downcast, now burning with a fierce, unwavering light, a reflection of her boundless courage, her unyielding spirit, a beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness. The air grew heavier, thicker, almost suffocating, imbued with an overwhelming sense of primordial darkness and a strange, deeply disorienting temporal distortion that seemed to actively resist their very presence, to push them back, a suffocating malevolence that seemed to press down on them with an almost physical weight, trying to crush their spirits, to fill them with despair, to warp their minds beyond recognition. A palpable manifestation of Apep's insidious influence, and its terrifying temporal power, its presence growing stronger, more oppressive with every single step they took, making the very fabric of reality feel thin and unstable, threatening to unravel their very existence, to dissolve them into the chaotic ether, a profound, relentless assault on their senses, their sanity, their very being, making them question every perception, every memory, every fragment of their own reality, a terrifying, relentless descent into the heart of madness, a battle for their minds, their souls, their very understanding of what was real. Khepri, feeling the oppressive, crushing weight of the darkness and the disorienting, sickening pull of the temporal distortions, clutched the Chronos stabilizer even tighter, its golden glow now intensely, almost blindingly bright, fighting with all its advanced mechanisms against the encroaching evil, its intricate mechanisms humming with a powerful, protective energy. A strong counter-vibration against the chaotic temporal flux, his young voice softly, carefully, almost desperately, murmuring the ancient incantations he had learned from the Scroll of Thoth, a protective chant that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of the manipulated time, a subtle, yet powerful ward against the malevolent energies that permeated the air, a spiritual shield against the cult's dark magic and its insidious temporal influence, strengthening their resolve with every single word, grounding their fragile reality against the cult's insidious influence, clarifying their purpose, even as the very air around them twisted and shimmered, threatening to pull them into a forgotten past or a terrifying, nightmare future, a brave, defiant struggle against the unmaking of existence itself, a desperate, final stand against the primordial chaos that sought to devour them whole, to erase them from all memory. They finally reached the absolute heart of the Chronos Nexus, a massive, cavernous chamber, its obsidian walls shimmering with intricate, glowing symbols that pulsed with a deep, malevolent green light, the very essence of Apep's raw temporal power, a terrifying, pulsing core of cosmic chaos, and in the absolute center of the chamber, suspended above a swirling vortex of dark, pulsating energy that seemed to draw all light into its depths, was a colossal, incredibly intricate clockwork mechanism, its huge gears grinding with a deafening roar, its massive springs coiling and uncoiling with a terrifying rhythm, its delicate hands spinning wildly, radiating an immense, malevolent green light that warped the very air around it, twisting it into grotesque shapes. The ultimate temporal machine, the true heart of the cult's power, a terrifying fusion of ancient, dark magic and advanced, forbidden technology. A monstrous contraption designed not just to unravel time itself, but to completely rewrite it, to reshape all of history to Apep's will, and at the very core of this colossal, terrifying machine, encased within layers of shimmering, dark, opaque crystal that seemed to absorb all sound, all light, pulsed the heart of Apep, a dark, pulsating crystal, no larger than a man's head, but radiating a suffocating malevolence, a palpable darkness that seemed to absorb all light, all hope, all joy, all life, the true source of the cult's primordial power, a relic of ultimate chaos, its rhythmic beat echoing through the chamber, a monstrous heartbeat of corrupted time, a terrifying pulse that resonated with the very essence of Apep, and standing proudly, terrifyingly, before this monstrous machine, his face twisted into a mask of cruel, triumphant evil, his eyes burning with a malevolent green light that pulsed in perfect sync with the crystal's beat, was Nekbet. Now seemingly fully merged with the temporal energies of the Nexus, his form subtly shifting, almost shimmering with a faint green temporal resonance, becoming a terrifying, almost divine manifestation of Apep's will, a grotesque fusion of human malevolence and primordial chaos, a living embodiment of the ultimate evil. You are too late, pathetic children! The ritual is complete. The heart of Apep is fully awakened. Time bends to its will. The past is rewritten. The future is ours for the taking. And you will be but a forgotten whisper, a non-existent echo in a history that never was. Behold, fools, the true, boundless, infinite power of Apep. Witness the dawn of a new, eternal age of chaos, forged by our divine will. His words, echoing with a terrifying, multi-layered temporal distortion that seemed to come from countless points in time, from past, present, and future simultaneously, seemed to shatter the very air, filling the chamber with a terrifying, overwhelming sense of impending doom, threatening to unravel their very minds, to plunge them into madness, to erase their very existence from the timeline, a deafening, cosmic roar of corrupted time, a terrifying symphony of ultimate, total destruction, and, as he spoke, the colossal clockwork mechanism roared with a final, triumphant, deafening blast, its gears grinding, its crystals flaring with blinding green light, and a powerful wave of temporal energy, a cosmic ripple of unprecedented magnitude, erupted outwards, making the entire chamber shudder violently, the obsidian walls groaning under the immense, unbearable strain. As if reality itself were tearing apart at the seams, dissolving into the chaotic void, and in that terrifying, agonizing moment, Anatole felt a profound, disorienting pull, a sensation of being stretched, pulled apart, as his mind was assaulted by a torrent of terrifying, conflicting visions, horrifying glimpses of alternate pasts where the French Revolution had never, ever happened, where France was forever enslaved under an eternal, cruel monarchy, its people forever bound in chains. Visions of terrifying alternate futures where Paris lay in utter ruins, consumed by an endless, primordial darkness, its people transformed into emotionless husks, mindless servants of Apep, their very souls devoured, and terrifying, agonizing flashes of his own past, his parents' gentle faces, their kind smiles, his simple village, all flickering, wavering, threatening to dissolve into non-existence, to be unwritten from the very fabric of time, a horrifying realization that the cult was not just manipulating time, but actively erasing, rewriting, consuming history itself, devouring memories, making the very concept of his own existence feel fragile, temporary, and utterly dependent on their success in this desperate, final, cosmic battle, a battle for his own identity, his own soul, his own past, present, and future. This horrifying temporal assault, this direct attack on his very being, injected a fresh wave of primal terror into Anatole, a profound, soul-crushing fear of losing everything, of losing himself, of being completely forgotten, erased from existence, but also, surprisingly, a fierce, unyielding resolve, a burning, righteous desire to prevent this ultimate abomination. To fight back with every last ounce of his strength against an evil that sought to not just destroy, but to utterly erase history, to unravel the very essence of existence, to unmake creation itself, and he knew, with a sickening, absolute certainty, that he had to complete his father's work, to finish the Chronos stabilizer, to fully understand its intricate workings, and to use it to disrupt the Chronos nexus, to prevent the cult's temporal manipulation, to save France, to save history. To save the very concept of time itself, a monumental task that now rested squarely and heavily on his young, determined shoulders, a burden that felt heavier than any mountain, but one that he now carried with a quiet, unwavering strength, his pure heart a defiant, blazing beacon against the encroaching darkness, a light that refused to be extinguished. Renan, also assailed by the terrifying temporal visions, her small body trembling uncontrollably, the strain of Apep's raw power visible on her pale face, but her eyes, though wide with terror, remained fixed on Anatole, a silent, powerful promise of unwavering support, a profound connection that transcended words, her hand instinctively reaching for the empty jar of ink, its protective aura. Though weakened by the overwhelming temporal chaos, still subtly shimmering, a desperate reminder of the divine aid that had brought them this far, a tangible link to the forces of Ma'at, of truth and balance, that were their only hope against this ancient, technologically advanced evil, this primordial darkness that sought to consume all. And as Nekbet laughed, his distorted voice echoing with triumphant, malevolent glee, "Witness, children, the unmaking of your pathetic reality. Witness the birth of Apep's true empire. Behold the new dawn of chaos." Khepri, with a guttural, primal cry of desperate resolve, a cry that came from the deepest part of his soul, pulled the Chronos stabilizer from beneath his tunic, its golden light blazing fiercely, fighting with all its intricate mechanisms against the overwhelming temporal distortions, its complex mechanisms humming with a powerful, counter-vibrating energy, a defiant song against the chaos. And with a powerful surge of adrenaline, a desperate, final burst of strength, he lunged forward, not aiming for Nekbet, not for the silent ones, who were now just blurs of green energy, but for the absolute heart of the colossal clockwork mechanism, the shimmering, dark crystal that pulsed with the malevolent green light, the heart of Apep, the ultimate source of the cult's primordial temporal power, knowing with chilling certainty that this was their only chance, their only path to freedom, to survival, to the preservation of existence itself, a single, desperate gamble against eternity. Nekbet, startled by Anatole's sudden, unexpected, almost suicidal charge, his triumphant sneer momentarily faltering, replaced by a flash of pure, unadulterated shock and rage, bellowed a command to his perfected temporal silent ones, his voice cracking with fury. "Stop him! Erase him! Do not let him touch the Nexus! Destroy them both! Now!" But Khepri, fueled by a primal scream of rage and grief for his parents, a guttural sound that seemed to tear through the very air, was impossibly fast, his small body a blur of golden light and desperate motion, weaving with an almost supernatural agility through the lumbering, temporarily disrupted forms of the Silent Ones. Their temporal manipulation momentarily disrupted by the Chronos stabilizer's powerful counterpulse, their movements slightly lagging, their attacks a fraction of a second too slow, their temporal precision completely undone, making them appear clumsy, almost pathetic against his blinding speed. And as he reached the colossal clockwork mechanism, its gears grinding with a terrifying roar, its crystals flaring with blinding green light, its temporal energy pulsing with an unbearable, dangerous intensity, he felt the terrifying pull of the temporal vortex. A sensation of being stretched and compressed simultaneously, of his very atoms threatening to unravel, to be pulled apart into nothingness. But he pushed through it, his mind focused solely, absolutely, on the heart of Apep, the dark, pulsating crystal, the ultimate source of all their suffering, all their fear, all their peril, the very core of Apep's evil, and with a final, desperate, defiant cry, a powerful shout that echoed through the entire Nexus. "For my parents! For France! For time! I will not let you unmake us!" He slammed the Chronos stabilizer against the shimmering, dark crystal with every ounce of his remaining strength, its golden light colliding violently with the malevolent green, a cataclysmic, universe-shattering clash of ancient magic and cutting-edge technology, a battle for the very soul of existence, a moment that would define the true meaning of why living in ancient Egypt, and now revolutionary France, wasn't as glamorous as anyone imagined, revealing a truth far stranger, far deadlier, and far more terrifying than any myth or legend, a reality that pulsed with every beat of their racing hearts, every whisper of Apep's malevolent hum, every temporal distortion that warped the very air around them, every step they took into the Chronos Nexus, ready to face their ultimate fate, ready to fight for the light, for freedom, for the very essence of humanity, against the ancient, terrifying power of the cult of Apep and its mastery over time itself, a power that now stood directly before them, its eyes burning with a primordial evil, eager to claim its final, defiant victims, to erase them from existence, to rewrite the very narrative of their world, a horrifying climax to their perilous journey, a moment that would determine the fate of not just ancient Egypt, but the very fabric of time and reality itself, a battle that would shake the foundations of existence. A clash between the purest hearts and the most ancient evil, with the very echoes of creation hanging in the balance, a desperate struggle that would define why living in ancient Egypt was anything but glamorous, revealing a truth far stranger and deadlier than any pharaoh's curse or pyramid secret, as Nekbet's distorted voice reverberated through the Chronos Nexus, filling the chamber with a terrifying, multi-layered echo of impending doom, threatening to shatter their very will, and Anatole, with his heart pounding, faced the ultimate truth of the French Revolution, a truth that transcended mere human conflict and delved into the terrifying depths of cosmic manipulation, a desperate fight for the very soul of time, a battle he knew he could not lose, for the sake of all who had been, and all who would ever be, a singular, defiant act against the unmaking of existence itself. The instant the Chronos stabilizer made contact with the heart of Apep, a deafening shriek, a sound of pure, unadulterated agony and cosmic rage, ripped through the entire nexus, a sound that seemed to tear the very air, to shatter the very fabric of space and time, echoing through the subterranean labyrinth with a force that threatened to deafen Anatole and Renan, and a blinding, cataclysmic explosion of golden and green light erupted from the point of impact, so intensely bright that it burned their eyes even through their tightly closed eyelids, temporarily plunging the entire chamber into a kaleidoscope of searing, conflicting energies, a furious tempest of temporal chaos and divine counterforce, a moment of pure, unadulterated cosmic violence, and the colossal clockwork mechanism, the ultimate temporal machine, screamed a high-pitched, metallic shriek of immense pain and destruction. Its huge gears grinding to a sudden, violent halt, then splintering, cracking, shattering into a million pieces, its intricate springs recoiling with devastating force, its dark crystals flaring one last, blinding time before imploding inwards, their malevolent green light extinguished forever, as the heart of Apep, the dark, pulsating crystal at its core, vibrated violently, then with a final, agonizing crack, it shattered into a million fragments of shimmering, dark dust. Its suffocating malevolence instantly vanishing, its primordial power completely undone, its insidious influence obliterated, leaving behind only the cold, still air and the lingering scent of ozone, a profound, terrifying silence descending upon the chamber, a silence of utter, absolute cessation, a silence that echoed with the death of an ancient evil, and a powerful wave of pure, benevolent golden energy, a cosmic counter-ripple of balance and restoration, erupted outwards from the now destroyed Chronos Nexus, washing over Anatole and Renan, a gentle, healing warmth that soothed their aching bodies, cleared their disoriented minds, and slowly, gently, began to mend the fractured fabric of reality itself, pushing back the lingering temporal distortions, stabilizing causality, restoring the natural flow of time, and in that moment, Anatole felt a profound, exhilarating sense of relief, a complete absence of the disorienting pull, the terrifying visions, the constant threat of erasure, replaced by a deep, abiding peace, a powerful sense of groundedness, of being firmly anchored in his own time, his own reality, his own undeniable existence, and he slowly opened his eyes, blinking in the now subdued light of the chamber, which was no longer pulsating with malevolent green, but with a soft, steady, golden glow emanating from the Chronos stabilizer, still clutched in his hand, its intricate mechanisms humming with a gentle, triumphant energy, its golden light a beacon of restored order. A silent testament to his father's genius. And he looked around the chamber, which was now in ruins, the colossal clockwork mechanism shattered beyond repair, its parts scattered like dead leaves, the obsidian walls, though still etched with glowing symbols, now pulsed with a soft, benevolent golden light, their malevolence replaced by an ancient, calming energy, and the perfected temporal silent ones, their forms frozen in mid-lunge, their bronze spears still gleaming, now stood motionless, like ancient statues, their green temporal energy completely gone, their eyes no longer burning with malevolence, but empty, vacant, devoid of any light, any flicker of life. Their forms, now mere husks, slowly, agonizingly, began to crumble, dissolving into piles of dust, their corruption completely undone, their essence returned to the primordial dust from which they were twisted, their torment finally at an end, their souls, once lost, now finally at peace. Released from Apep's terrible grip, a poignant, tragic sight that brought a lump to Anatole's throat, a moment of both triumph and profound sorrow, a quiet acknowledgement of the immense human cost of their victory, and Nekbet, the pharaoh's sly adviser, his face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated horror and disbelief, his eyes wide with a terrifying, primal fear, his glowing staff, its crystal shattered, its clockwork mechanism frozen, now lay broken on the ground beside him. Its power utterly extinguished, his form, which had been subtly shimmering with temporal resonance, now rapidly dissolving, his body twisting, contorting, unraveling into a vortex of swirling green energy, his booming, multi-layered roar of rage and triumph now reduced to a series of high-pitched, agonized shrieks, as Apep's primordial essence, no longer anchored by the heart of Apep, no longer channeled through the nexus, recoiled violently from his corrupted form, devouring him whole, a horrifying, poetic justice, as the architect of chaos was consumed by the very chaos he worshipped, his existence unwritten, his memory erased, his very being dissolved into the primordial void, a terrifying end to a terrifying evil, and Renan, her small body still trembling, but her eyes now shining with tears of relief and profound joy, rushed to Anatole, pulling him into a tight embrace, her small hands clutching his threadbare tunic, her voice a soft, choked whisper. "We did it, Khepri! We did it! We won! It's over! The curse is broken! The time, it's stable! We are safe! France is safe!" Her words, filled with an overwhelming emotion, brought tears to Anatole's own eyes, tears of triumph, of relief, of profound gratitude for his brave, unwavering companion, for their shared victory against an evil that had threatened to unmake everything, and he hugged her back, his arms wrapped tightly around her small, trembling figure, finding solace and strength in their shared humanity, their unwavering bond. A profound connection forged in the crucible of cosmic horror, a bond that had defied the ancient evil, that had saved their world, and he looked at the chronos stabilizer, still humming gently in his hand, its golden light a beacon of restored order, a silent testament to his father's genius, to his own courage, to the unwavering spirit of humanity, and he knew, with a profound, unshakable certainty, that their journey, their terrifying ordeal, had been worth it, every moment of fear, every pang of hunger, every ache in his body, every terrifying revelation, all of it, had led to this moment, to freedom, to peace, to the preservation of existence itself, a victory that transcended mere human conflict and echoed through the very fabric of time, a triumphant symphony of restored balance, a powerful testament to the fact that even in the darkest hours, even against the most ancient and technologically advanced evils, the purest heart, guided by truth, by courage, by unwavering resolve, could find a way to defy fate, to break curses, to restore balance, to save the world. And as the last vestiges of Apep's malevolence faded from the Chronos nexus, replaced by the gentle, benevolent glow of restored temporal order, a profound silence descended upon the chamber, a silence not of despair, but of profound peace, a silence that hummed with the quiet rhythm of a balanced reality, a silence that promised a new dawn for France, a new era of true liberty, equality, and fraternity. Free from the insidious grip of ancient evil, free from the manipulation of time, free to forge its own future, unburdened by the shadows of a rewritten past, and Anatole, with Renan by his side, stepped out of the ruined Chronos nexus, their faces illuminated by the soft, golden light of the Chronos stabilizer, their bodies weary but their spirits soaring, ready to face the dawn, ready to share their incredible story, ready to remind the world why living in revolutionary France wasn't as glamorous as anyone imagined, but also, why, even in its darkest hour, it had found its true heroes, its true saviors, in two forgotten children who dared to defy cosmic chaos, who dared to fight for time itself, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, a saga of unparalleled triumph and boundless hope, a story that would be whispered in taverns and sung in revolutionary anthems for generations to come, forever etching their names into the newly restored tapestry of time, a legacy of courage, redemption, and the boundless spirit of adventure, a testament to the extraordinary journey of a young, brave baker's apprentice and his steadfast companion, whose pure hearts transformed a nation under siege into a beacon of hope, leading it and its people into a future filled with boundless promise, where every sunrise brought new wonders, every sunset a peaceful rest, and every journey a glorious adventure, a true testament to the strange and deadly truths of life, and the even stranger and more powerful truths of courage and unwavering hope, a saga without end, forever entwined with the endless, majestic rhythm of time itself, a story that would forever remind humanity that true power lies not in manipulation or control, but in the purity of heart and the unwavering pursuit of truth and justice, a beacon of hope for all who seek to truly understand the deeper, often hidden, truths of existence, a tale that resonated with the very echoes of creation, a triumphant symphony of restoration and freedom, proving that even the most ancient evils can be overcome by the simplest, purest acts of courage, and that the greatest treasures are not gold or jewels, but the freedom of the soul and the peace of a heart unburdened by fear, a legacy that would ripple through history, forever changing the tales of France, making the names of Anatole and Renan symbols not of dread, but of ultimate hope, vessels sailing towards eternity, carrying the legend of the children who saved time itself, their adventure continuing far beyond the horizon, into realms unknown, forever etched into the vast, beautiful tapestry of the cosmos, a truly epic and unending story of courage, redemption, and the boundless spirit of adventure, a testament to the extraordinary journey of two young, brave children, whose pure hearts transformed a threatened world into a beacon of hope, leading it and its people into a future filled with boundless promise, where every wave whispered tales of their triumph, and every star twinkled with the magic of their impossible victory. A legacy of freedom stretching across the endless sea of time, inspiring generations to come to seek their own truth, to face their own fears, and to believe in the incredible power of a single, pure heart to change the course of destiny, forever marking the universe with the indelible imprint of their extraordinary tale, a continuous journey of discovery, peace, and boundless possibility. As the newly recalibrated Chronos stabilizer continued to hum gently in Anatole's hand, a living legend itself, whispered about in every future epic as the device of freedom, the key to restored reality, carrying its courageous legacy towards a horizon that promised not just adventure, but enlightenment, not just riches, but profound wisdom, sailing into a boundless future, a true marvel of the ages, its story echoing through the annals of time. A beacon for all who seek to truly understand the strange and deadly truths of life, and the even stranger and more powerful truths of courage and unwavering hope, a saga without end, forever entwined with the endless, majestic rhythm of the cosmos itself.